Where America is headed as per the Black Book of Communism, Obama spills a lethal secret. Those who lived in communist countries know how evil it is and what surrounds their freedoms. Nothing belongs to them, and their government not only owned all property and business, but also people themselves. They were told what professions to follow. They were told how much food they could eat, or what they could eat, and how to run their businesses, if they were allowed to have businesses. And the governments controlled every single aspect of their lives, even if they could have religion or not. So those in power controlled everybody below them, and many millions died in such regimes. For example, the one in the former Soviet Union. According to the Black Book of Communism, it's a book that documents the history of repression by communist states. About 95 million people died under the communist regimes in the 20th century alone. And is this where America is now headed? The country which we knew is no longer the same. It's given rise to something which is an oligarchy or even a dictatorship, someone who openly aligns himself with communist dictators. Obama's circle of communist friends and leftist appointees, such as a young man in his father's figure, Frank Marshall Davis, was a member of the Soviet-controlled Communist Party, USA, and very anti-Christian. His mother was also a communist. Obama studied in California under Saul Alinsky. Alinsky was a man who wrote The Rules for Radicals and was known for his communist beliefs. So Obama studied under Saul Alinsky, and he also taught a college class on Alinsky's book, which later Saul Alinsky dedicated to none other than Lucifer. So the ACLU director and board member of the leftist Communist National People's Action, John McKnight, also taught Barack Obama concerning community organizing. Obama attended Harvard Law School, as we all know, and he supported Professor Derek Bell. Bell is a racist and pushed for diversity on campus. The official list of communist goals, as revealed by Dr.Cleon Skousen in The Naked Communist, it's a book which first appeared in 1958 at the height of the anti-communist movement in America. And Cleon Skousen studied communism and its ruthless expansion around the world for decades. National confusion concerning the goals of communism spurred him to write this book, and it became an instant success. President Ronald Reagan worked with Skousen in the 1950s and 60s to combat the spread of communism in the States, of course, and he said no one is better qualified to discuss the threat to the US from communism. You'll be alarmed and you'll be informed. You'll be glad you heard what Cleon Skousen had to say. In 1961, Skousen added to his book 45 communist goals that laid out steps aimed in running the culture of America. Their purpose was to abolish the Constitution and to turn the United States of America into the fold of Marxist theoretical one-world government. And as of 2014, all but one of those 45 goals has been reached. Today, it's the most important than ever to understand these communist ideas and to know how they've eroded freedom around the world. With that understanding, his readers will be prepared to take action and know what steps are needed to rescue liberty in this, the last nation still standing in opposition to the failure formula that has wrecked hundreds of millions of lives over the past century. This is of course, opening the preface to The Naked Communist. These are some of the lists of the communist goals, as pointed out by Dr. Cleon Skousen in The Naked Communist. On page 259, it says, 1. The U.S. acceptance of coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war. 2. U.S. willingness to capitulate in preference to engaging in atomic war. 3. Develop the illusion that total disarmament by the United States would be a demonstration of moral strength. 4. Permit free trade between all nations regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not items could be used for war. 5. Extension of long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites, that is, former Soviet Union member states. 6. Provide American aid to all nations regardless of communist domination. 7. Grant recognition of Red China, admission of Red China to the UN. 8. Set up East and West Germany as separate states, in spite of Khrushchev's promise in 1955 to settle the German question by free elections under provision of the United Nations. 9. Prolong the conferences to ban atomic tests because the United States has agreed to suspend tests as long as negotiations are in progress. 10. Allow all Soviet satellites individual representation in the United Nations. 11. Promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, amend that it be set up as a one world government with its own independent armed forces. Some communist leaders believe the world can be taken over as easily by the UN as by Moscow. Sometimes these two centers compete with each other, as they are now doing in the Congo. 12. Reset any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. 13. Do away with all loyalty oaths. 14. Continue giving Russia access to the U.S. Patent Office. 15. Capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. 16. Use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights. 17. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. 18. Gain control of all students' newspapers. 19. Use student riots to foment public protests against programs or organizations which are under communist attack. 20. Infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writing, policy-making positions. 21. Gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. 22. Continue discrediting American culture by degrading all forms of artistic expression. An American communist cell was told to eliminate all good sculpture from parks and buildings, substitute shapeless, awkward, and meaningless forms. 23. Control arts critics and directors of art museums. Quote, our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art, end quote. 24. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them, quote, censorship, end quote, and a violation of free speech and free press. 25. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. 26. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as, quote, normal, natural, and healthy, end quote. 27. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion as social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. 28. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools, on the ground that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. 29. Discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, out of step with modern needs, a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis. 30. Discredit the American Founding Fathers. Discredit the American Founding Fathers. Present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. 31. Belittle all forms of American culture and discourage the teaching of American history on the grounds that it was only a minor part of the big picture. Give more emphasis to Russian history since the communists took over. 32. Support any social movement to give centralized control over any part of the culture, education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics, etc. 33. Eliminate all laws or procedures which interfere with the operation of the communist apparatus. 34. Eliminate the House Committee on the Un-American Activities. 35. Discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. 36. Infiltrate and gain control of more unions. 37. Infiltrate and gain control of big business. 38. Transfer some of the power of arrest from the police to social agencies. Treat all behavioral problems as psychiatric disorders which no one but psychiatrists can understand or treat. 39. Dominate the psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as a means of gaining coercive control over those who oppose communist goals. 40. Discredit any family as an institution. Discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. 41. Emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. Attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents. 42. Create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition, that students and special interest groups should rise up and use a united force to solve economic, political, and social problems. 43. Overthrow all colonial governments before native populations are ready for self-government. 44. Internationalize the Panama Canal. 45. Repeal the Connolly Reservation so the United States cannot prevent the World Court from seizing jurisdiction over domestic problems. Give the World Court jurisdiction over nations and individuals alike. So as you can see, most of these items, these bullet points, have already taken place, not only in the United States, but worldwide. I'll leave a link below for you for these.